This special edition of Democracy Works, the race for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey, has been made possible by Barnabas Health, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey's credit unions, banking you can trust, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 college savings plan, turn a dream into a degree, the law firm of Gibbons PC, and by TD Bank. Promotional support provided by The Star Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey, NJ Biz, All Business, All New Jersey, and by Politicker NJ.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Joining us for the entire program today is the Republican candidate for the United States Senate, Steve Lonegan. Mr. Lonegan, welcome back. It's always nice to have you here.
Good to be with you guys.
And of course, I'm talking about the special election to serve out the term of the late Senator Lautenberg. That's what we're talking about. Now, Mr. Lonegan, let me start with a very simple question. As Senator, what would be your number one priority?
My number one priority is to preserve liberty in this nation, individual liberty. Government is getting bigger and bigger every day, every month, every year, at an exploding rate, whether it's the national debt, clearing $17 trillion, by the way, pushing the debt ceiling again, spending, the expansion of regulations in the financial sector, the EPA, and every other area of government is just choking small business. And at the end of the day, that chokes our individual liberty. That's my number one concern.
And how would you do that? As a senator, which is a collaborative body, how would you do that? Compromising, figuring out deals with other senators, or sticking to a principle despite the consequences?
You know, you talk about compromising, and people bring this up to me quite a bit, or you're not going to compromise. You know, I've been married for 32 years. And when it comes to what color to paint the bedroom or what furniture to buy, where to go on vacation, I don't compromise. I just capitulate. Right? My wife just gets her way. But when, because that's, you guys.
Yes, we understand.
You understand.
Yes, yes.
However, I don't compromise on my marital vows. I don't compromise on the United States Constitution. You may go into the Senate and compromise on spending issues, where to best put funds in certain areas, but when it comes to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, there's no compromise. So yeah, on certain areas, I'm not going to compromise, and that's on principle.
You know, this issue of being a fiscal conservative, no one has ever questioned your credibility on this issue, Mayor. You've been down the line, and before there was a Tea Party, you were the Tea Party in terms of your philosophy. Mm-hmm. But I want to put up a quote, and I'm going to ask our senior producer, Natalie Sandy, to put up this quote, and I'll read it for you. This has to do with, this was a debate on the Affordable Care Act back in 2011. You were talking about Obamacare, which it's come to be known, and you were talking about spending, federal spending on Obamacare. Natalie, you have it ready to go? You said, quote, "I'll be as callous and uncaring as you can imagine. I have no interest in paying for your health care. I'd hate to see you get cancer, but that's your problem, not mine."
Mm-hmm. Well, you can take that in or out of context, Steve, and that's fine. But, you know, I went to church on Sunday, and during Mass, we stopped to pray for those who are ill. And that's what Americans do. They care about those that are ill. They pray for those that are ill. But we don't pay the health care bills of the lady down the street who's suffering.
Is the government's job more than just to pray?
Well, here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to do. We need to provide high-quality health care for every American, and we need to do it not with government. Not with government regulations, not with government interference, but by allowing doctors to achieve their best possible potential, by allowing hospitals to function effectively without being throttled by government regulation, by putting an end to the malpractice suits that are choking doctors in malpractice costs, by allowing different, there are many free market ways of providing high-quality health care. We don't need more government to do it, and that's the big problem.
Not at all, Mr. Lonegan. There's no role for government to help out the lady down the street if the lady down the street has cancer and has absolutely no way to pay for it?
Actually, excuse me, Ralph, let me add something.
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
Lady down the street, Mr. Lonegan, has a pre-existing condition. And the free marketplace, which you've been a long-time advocate of, and you're not alone, says you have a pre-existing condition, 56-year-old lady, you have cancer, and we are not going to cover you. You hate to see her have that cancer, but that's her problem, not yours, Steve.
No, actually,
I just want to clarify that.
I want you to understand that I believe there are solutions to all these issues that are outside of the government interfering in our health care. And one of those solutions is catastrophic health care pools, in which we all contribute into a catastrophic health care pool to provide that safety net that Ronald Reagan talked about by those that are truly in need. Because there are many people who choose not to buy health insurance or have health insurance, and they may be smoking and overweight and fat, and then later on in life they want to jump into health care. The point is that we have solutions to these issues that are outside of the government interference in our healthcare system, which is going to throttle our healthcare system. Under Obamacare, we're going to end up with more bureaucrats than we are doctors in a few years at the rate that we're going. So I am a proponent of solutions to all these issues. I want to see a safety net for every American, and that comes through a civil society. You know, my mother was the secretary to the president of St. Vincent's Hospital in New York, a phenomenal charity care hospital run by nuns. My mother's boss was a nun, and they did a phenomenal job for over 100 years of providing charity care for people in need. We need to have those kinds of institutions. I'll give you a solution. How about we allow doctors to have tax deductions for their pro bono work, and let's see thousands of free clinics pop up around the country to serve those in need.
Can I just follow up on this one question? Maybe we move on from another topic. But this is a solution that Paul Mulshine, another conservative libertarian, was touting just this morning
for the
Star-Ledger. It's a proposal I haven't heard of, vouchers for everybody. Vouchers for government-issued vouchers for everybody, which they then use for basic market insurance, and they can pay their own money for better coverage. Is there room for government to intervene to that extent?
I haven't seen that. I'd have to look at it more. So I can't comment on, so I really hadn't heard of that concept before. I love the idea of giving tax credits and to doctors doing pro bono work like they used to do, by promoting free clinics, by exempting doctors and free clinics from malpractice lawsuits. These are the kind of solutions we need that will bring real health care to the lady down the street who needs health care, who's truly in need. These are the real solutions, not the government.
You know, you are so quotable.
I know.
You know you are. And by the way, tell everyone my background. You were the mayor of Bogota.
Yes.
From what years?
From January 1st, 1996 to December 31st, 2007.
And not a
years.
Republican community.
No, it's a very heavy Democrat community. It's a town that elected Al Gore, Jim McGreevey, a guy named Bob Torricelli, Bob Menendez, Frank Lautenberg.
Democrats.
Bill Clinton.
And why'd they pick you?
Because of my fiscal conservative leadership and the fact that I communicated regularly with my taxpayers to explain what I was doing. We reinvented government in Bogota in many, many ways. I led the way in some terrific innovative methods of governing on the local level, and I'm proud of that. And I believe that that record resonates across New Jersey.
Okay, put it this way. You've run for public office before. You've never said no to us coming in here. Now that you're a national star, you're harder to get, but you come back, and we appreciate that, Steve. But again, one more quote, I promise. Last quote, because this is particularly quotable. The reason I set you up like that, I don't mean set you up, but the best part is...
I'm fine with it.
You are, because you take it all on. You get elected in a Democratic town. People seem to judge you on your track record, but you have this statement, and I think you're going to say, I retract it, or maybe I was quoted out of context.
I know.
You know what it is. Okay. He knows what it is. Steve, did you not make a mistake and say to yourself, I shouldn't have said, quote, Natalie, let's put it up. Let's put the handicap quote up, because he doesn't buy. Steve Lonegan doesn't even believe this.
Steve thought it was another one. That's the one I want to know.
Okay, Steve Lonegan doesn't believe that. There was a tweet that was put out by someone in his campaign. This happens all the time. Tweets happen. And it wasn't Steve. It was someone in the campaign who put up a map of Newark, and they had different parts of Africa in it, and they said, this is Cory Booker's international policy, and it was different parts of Newark. He didn't put it up. That wasn't the issue. And Steve Lonegan said, quote, I have a handicap, you know. I'm a white guy running in the state of New Jersey. Come on, Steve. You didn't really mean that.
Well, what I mean, Steve, is that, you know, in today's trendy world of being cool and trendy, you know, you need to be, you know, if you're just a regular middle-class white guy coming out of Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, you're not capturing that sort of imagination. I'm just an average taxpayer from the state of New Jersey. I grew up in a two-family house in Ridgefield Park. My dad was a Navy veteran of Korea. My mom a PTA president. I've been married for 32 years. My wife's a Catholic school teacher.
You don't have a handicap.
That is just not cool and trendy, Steve. That's my point.
Okay, so Steve, you said that of Cory Booker that he is out of touch with the voters. Now he's leading by double digits in all the polls, so I'm not sure how you square that circle. But let me just ask this. Were you out of touch with the voters when you opposed the $60 billion federal funding for Sandy relief for the region?
No, not at all.
But most New Jerseyans were in favor of that.
In fact, every day that goes by and more issues emerge about the money being spent and not getting to where it needs to be and so much money just sloshing around, time will prove over time that I was right. I'm not opposed to Sandy Aid. I'm certainly not opposed to helping those people in need. I was opposed to the massive spending bill and the lack of controls that were put on that bill. And I will stick by that.
But you know, New Jerseyans pay more money to the federal government than they get back from the federal government. Shouldn't they get back some money like that when they really need it?
Well, and that was the governor's job, to get back as much money as he could, and I congratulate him for doing that. However, as a U.S. Senator, I will stand on principle. We need to stop printing money from the federal printing presses. We need to stop plunging this nation into irrecoverable debt. We're going to bankrupt our children's future, our own future.
As Chris Christie fought for that $60 billion and challenged Congress, as he tried to embarrass Congress into the $60 billion, if you were the United States Senator representing New Jersey at the time, would you have voted yes on the $60 billion?
No. And I would have been pragmatically asking for more controls over how that money would be spent, how it would go to New Jersey, how it would get to homeowners. I understand the urgency of the moment, trying to get as much money as we can. And again, the governor did what he had to do.
But you would have voted no against the funding for New Jersey.
That bill, as it was, yes.
But
because it violated my principles.
You wouldn't have been against federal money for New Jersey. You just didn't like the way that bill did it.
The bill lacks the controls that are still needed today, and history is proving that, guys. You're seeing it, and you're going to see more and more reports. You're going to be talking about it for the next 2 years.
Rafael, let's clarify something. We are pleased to have Mayor Lonegan here. As I said, he rarely ever, he doesn't duck. He's always here.
I think the majority of New Jerseyans know I'm right. Even people down along the shore, they know that money's sloshing around.
Will you just take a compliment, Steve?
Okay, I will.
I was about to say that we had Mayor Cory
I'll run
Booker.
that in a radio spot, by the way.
No, don't. You don't have my okay for that. We had Mayor Cory Booker booked. We have Mayor Cory Booker booked for an interview. There was a challenge in the schedule. Schedules are challenging with these guys running for the U.S. Senate. We're rescheduling that interview as we speak right now with Mayor Booker. It is our commitment on Capitol Report to have a half hour with Mayor Lonegan, a half hour with Mayor Booker, the two major party candidates for the United States Senate. By the way, you've had some pretty nasty things to say about Cory Booker.
I don't know if the word nasty
Well,
is
can we
correct.
go with this? Natalie, let's go with our colleague, I think it's NJ Today, Mike Schneider. I think it is Steve Lonegan talking about Cory Booker on NJ Today, our sister program that airs on WNET and more importantly, New Jersey NJ TV. This is Steve Lonegan talking about his friend and opponent in the U.S. Senate race, Cory Booker.
There's a clear line in the sand difference between me and Cory Booker. Cory Booker is an advocate, a devotee of bigger government, more spending, more debt. I'm exactly the opposite. I want to cut the size of government. I want to return to a limited government which enables Americans to reach their unlimited abilities.
You were running against him pretty much from the very beginning anyway, let's face it. You know, the campaign has portrayed him as an absentee mayor and as a celebrity mayor. The Variety headline about him being a Hollywood favorite, your campaign is already having some fun with, I understand, as well. Do you really see him that way?
Well, his Democrat opponents did in the primary, as well as do we in the rest of the state. And it's not really as much fun for me to do this as deeply concerning that we have these Hollywood elite stepping down and descending from their penthouse apartments at the Bel Air Hotel in the heights of Hollywood Hills to tell New Jersey who the next senator is going to be.
Is that what you have going on? Is Hollywood elites descending down to tell us who to vote for the U.S. Senate, Mayor?
Don't we? I mean, we have Oprah Winfrey coming into New Jersey. We have money coming from Hollywood, from the Silicon Valley moguls who handed Mayor Booker a business on a silver platter. I mean, it's up to you to decide whether I'm right. I think people know I'm 100% right.
But it is the
So
voters
those are
who
the
will
facts.
decide that.
That's
It's Mayor
the truth.
Booker's positions against your positions that will ultimately decide, no?
It's also what people think of the individual and the person and what they stand for. So
Now, Steve,
there's more than that in an election, Steve.
Now, you had in different quotes, you have said that Cory Booker is wrong on all the issues. Don't you give him any credit at all for his positions in education, where he's taken on some of his constituents, like the teachers union, in support of vouchers, for example?
I know that Newark has the
schools.
second most expensive school district in the state.
Well, you know that he didn't have anything to do with that.
He has nothing to do with it, but they have a dropout rate of over 50%, maybe as much as 70%. The Newark school system continues to fail. Thousands of Newark school students, generations of children who are going to be destined
And he has
because
proposed solutions similar to yours, vouchers, more charter schools, against some of his constituents. No?
And after 7 years has achieved no results.
But Mayor, respectfully,
I would like to talk
the
about
state
my
of,
solution.
But you've been very critical of him on this. We'll come back. Okay, here's the difference. The state of New Jersey is in fact in control of the Newark Public Schools. Should they be?
No, they shouldn't be. This mayor and school board should have been able to take control of it after 7 years instead of allowing it to continue to fail. And you know, Steve, there's this unfortunate situation where people, you know what they say? Well, it's Newark. What do you expect? It's Newark.
What do you expect?
I expect success. I have a lot more confidence that the people of Newark, given the opportunity to govern themselves, to have the opportunity to grow small businesses, to educate their children, to have a choice in what their children learn, where they go to school, would drive Newark towards success.
By the way, who says it's Newark? What do you expect?
That's the general attitude, and you see that, and that's the reaction I get from reporters and from people. Well, you know, he's in Newark. What do you expect him to do? He's been the mayor for 7 years, and it's failed. So what do you expect? It's Newark.
Now,
You know,
let's change the subject. If you're elected, you may get a chance to vote on raising the debt ceiling. Are there any circumstances under which you would vote for raising the debt ceiling?
Massive spending cuts to back up that raising the debt ceiling. Otherwise, I will not vote to raise any debt ceiling.
Some of your colleagues, some of your more conservative colleagues, or people who would be your conservative colleagues in the Senate, like Rubio and Cruz from they'll raise the debt ceiling if the Senate agrees to defund Obamacare. Would that be a deal you'd accept?
Absolutely. I want to defund Obamacare. I want to cut spending for Common Core curriculum standards. We're getting back to education, how the federal government is intruding into the education of our children, just like they're intruding into our health care, just like they're intruding into every aspect of our lives. Brings me right back to my core reason for running. It's about individual liberty. And I'm watching a federal government that is exploding in every direction, whether it's the NSA collecting data on you and me and our moms and dads and our families, or the IRS targeting certain groups, or Obamacare intruding into our healthcare decisions, or any of these issues.
Let's stay on the NSA. I'm sorry for interrupting, Mayor. Let's stay on the NSA situation. The NSA, characterize your position currently on how the Obama administration has handled the national security agencies spying, in quotes, on Americans.
Well, I want to live in a country where the government protects us from our enemies and doesn't spy on our friends, our families, our neighbors, and ourselves. The Obama administration has basically accepted the NSA's sweeping collection of data on every one of us, as well as and there's more and more stories coming out about this almost every day. Whether it's the love int issue, where you have NSA bureaucrats spying on their love interests. If they can spy on their love interests, they can spy on their political enemies. They can spy on reporters that they don't like.
Do you think 9/11 has changed? I mean, listen, I don't want to get into the Pandora's box of the Chris Christie debate with Rand Paul on this, but my sense is that you tend to side with Rand Paul on this as opposed to Chris Christie. Chris Christie argues that we do need to have a different way of looking at these issues post 9/11. Rand Paul does not see it that way. You say?
We can use our technology and our CIA and the FBI to track real potential threats to this country. We don't have to collect the phone records of my 81-year-old mother in assisted living, or myself, or yours, Steve, to do that. We can figure out through analytics who the real potential terrorists are, and it's not every American, and that's what we're doing today.
Now, can we change the subject?
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Now,
I know you're going to do it anyway, so go ahead. Probably for a good reason.
If you had been in the Senate when the immigration reform bill was voted on, it was a bipartisan bill, and it was passed with bipartisan votes, would you have supported it?
No. I had urged.
What part of it did you not?
Well, the bill is just too big and too complex. It's sort of along the lines of what you're seeing out of the government quite a bit, in these massive, complicated bills that nobody understands, like the 2,700-page Obamacare bill, the Dodd-Frank bill. These bills that are so big that nobody knows what they're voting on.
Well, it's big, to balance it. On the one hand, it would double border guards. It would double the money spent on border protection, and at the same time, it would start a path for the legalization of undocumented immigrants.
I'm not going to vote on any bill with that kind of major impact on our country without having the ability to read it myself. Not have reports from staffers who give you a summary I want to read the fine print, because it's all from the fine print where we get into trouble. Read the fine print.
Can Republicans win national election again without the vote of Hispanic voters, which is continually increasing?
Republicans will get a chunk of Hispanic voters. They always will, by appealing to their conservative values, to their limited government values, because many Hispanics, majority, want to run small businesses and raise their families free of government interference and free of the government spying on them. So the answer is yes, but we don't have to just jam through some bill out of political necessity rather than thoughtfulness. The bill has to be broken up into small parts and voted on separately. We have to have border security, this is true. And just because they threw doubling spending in this bill, they got put, who knows what else was in that bill? There's a lot of aspects to that bill. They should be voted separate pieces.
Okay, Mayor, if we can do this, staying on the issues. By the way, I want to clarify for those of you watching, this entire half hour is with Steve Lonegan, the former mayor of Bogota, who's been really out there. Americans for Prosperity, an organization you headed up, right?
For 7 years, the state director and
Absolutely.
policy director. Correct.
And now the Republican nominee for the United States Senate, running against Cory Booker, the Democratic nominee. It is our hope to have Mayor Booker in a separate half hour before this election, which is being held on
October 16th, which is a Wednesday, by the way.
not the normal Tuesday.
Not the normal Tuesday. And by the way, the whole country is going to be watching this race, because this election in New Jersey will be a referendum on the Obama agenda, as well as I'm going to make it a referendum on the future of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
A lot at stake. We will have the mayor, Mayor Booker, on as well. Listen, how about this one? Clarify this. Rafael brought up immigration. This is important. When you were the mayor of Bogota, go ahead.
Go ahead. You're going to bring up the infamous, the famous billboard issue?
How come you know what I'm going to ask before I'm going to ask it, Mr.
Because you talk about it all the time. Like,
just clarify.
In Bogota, we had a remarkable situation, which I still think was a very interesting and dynamic time. At the very peak of the illegal immigration thing, there were huge crowds in Los Angeles, and there was all kinds of attention. You had these angry-looking crowds of illegal, undocumented workers shaking their fists at TV cameras, flying, pulling down the American flag, flying It angered a lot of people. McDonald's came into Bogota and put up a billboard, which was misplaced by their own placement people, and it just caused a lot of angst in my town amongst a whole bunch of people.
Was it in Spanish?
It was in Spanish.
And you said...
And people came to me and complained. And I got to tell you, had it been at a different time, Steve, it would have been... But at that moment in time, because of everything that was going on, it was incendiary.
And you said...
I said to McDonald's, I would recommend you replace the billboard because you're getting people upset.
That's all you said?
That's basically all I said, yes. That's basically what I said, yes.
Did
exactly what I said.
Oh, Mayor, you're... Well, hold on. Did you also say, hey, why don't we just make English the official language?
This opened up a huge discussion, and I think it was a phenomenal discussion about the role of the English language. So I put a ballot question on the ballot following that whole incident to clarify what people really thought, to make English the official language of Bogota. What that meant was, it was consistent with the 30 or so states who have similar legislation. It meant that Bogota would keep its ordinance and its resolutions in English. So if you came in and said, can I get that ordinance in German or Spanish or Italian? No, it only comes in English. Did not restrict anybody from putting up any sign they want, speaking any language they want.
But if you dealt with the government, it had to be in English.
Correct. And this is not uncommon. It's very common.
Just tried to clarify, Mayor.
And you know what? The Democrats voted with me to put on the ballot.
In your town?
In my town.
Got it, that's all.
Okay, Mr. Lonegan, let's talk international politics for a second. We're shooting on August 27th. Just yesterday, the Secretary of State said that it was undeniable that the Assad government used chemical weapons on its own people. Hundreds have died, perhaps thousands will die because thousands have been injured. And the headlines of the Star Ledger is U.S. military response in Syria appears inevitable. Would you, if you were in the Senate, approve of retaliation by the U.S. government against Syria for its chemical attack on its own people?
No, I will not. I will not vote to send American troops or military into another war in the Middle East. We've failed every step of the way.
But what if it's not sending troops to the Middle East, but retaliating in another way?
Well, retaliating against the Assad regime, who is now fighting against rebels who were brought in through Turkey, who are basically Al-Qaeda.
That's a complicated question. There are a section, but the minority section of the people fighting against Assad. But be that as it may, the United States has no responsibility to deal with atrocities like that around the world. We have no moral standing in the world.
The United States is not the police force for the rest of the world. And I'm tired of us sending our people and our troops and our military into every intervention in the world. It's just continuing to drain our, and plus we're causing more instability in the Middle East. I'm not so certain, and there is some debate whether Assad really did use those chemical weapons. It could have been the biggest political setup in Middle East, political history.
You would say no.
It's
don't
not
get
out of
involved.
the questions.
By the way,
I
the Secretary of State,
I don't care what
Kerry
the
said it was undeniable.
I don't care what the Secretary of State
You don't
said.
He's
I
not
don't
the
care.
Secretary of State of the Democratic Party. He's the Secretary of State of the country,
So
Mayor.
what? They've barely done an investigation. It's only been just because they say so. I want to see a full-blown investigation, and then we'll determine whether or not those chemicals were used. By the way, back in 1987, a guy named
Go ahead.
Saddam Hussein uses wiped out 5,000 Kurds. America didn't go in to Iraq in 1987 to retaliate, did they?
Okay.
Mayor, I want to thank you for joining us, not ducking any questions as usual.
No more wars, Steve. No more wars.
Appreciate it. Mayor, thank you for coming in. We wish you all the best, and we'll continue the conversation with you. Promise to also have Mayor Booker in another conversation. That's it for this special edition, the Senate edition of Capitol Report from my esteemed colleague, Rafael Piroman. I'm Steve Adubato. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Get out and vote, October 16th. Thank you, Mayor.
For me. Thank you.
This special edition of Democracy Works, The Race for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey, is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence, and 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey's Credit Unions, NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan, the law firm of Gibbons PC, and by TD Bank. This special edition of Democracy Works, The Race for the U.S. Senate in New Jersey has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.
New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Company offers policies that can protect against auto accidents, fires, windstorms, floods, and many other serious and urgent situations. Tips on what to do before, during, and after you're confronted with the unexpected are on the emergency preparedness section of njm.com. New Jersey Manufacturers, helping the Garden State prepare for the unexpected for nearly a century.